In this video, we're going to be going over Chapter 6, Consumer Purchasing Strategies and Buying Cars, something I absolutely love to do. Identify the strategies for effective buying, implement a process for making your purchase, describe the steps needed to resolve the consumer problems, and evaluate some of the legal alternatives that might be available to you if you do have a problem. Now, when you start thinking about consumer buying, okay, you have to think about the trade-offs, the opportunity costs that go with it, things like that. A lot of times, people will overspend and misuse their credit, and they get themselves into trouble with their buying habits. We've talked about that in the past. Some of the things to think about is timing the purchase. In other words, there are times, like when you're buying a car, when the prices actually go down quite a bit. For example, before a new model comes out, model year comes out, right before then, they will discount anything that's on the lots quite a bit if you're talking about buying a new car. During bad weather, if you're going to go buy a used car, you're going to get more of a discount, things like that. Be thinking about where it is that you're buying the car, okay? Compare and shop around. Make sure that you understand the dating on everything, things like this. One of the things to think about is price comparison. So one of the things that a lot of people will do is go to Costco, and they will buy gigantic packages of whatever it is. Do you really need a 3-year supply of toilet paper right now, sort of thing? Yeah, you might be saying, okay, over the long run, I'm saving a lot of money. The thing is, you had a bunch of cash that you just put up front. All right, so large is not always the best way to buy. The more store convenience that you have, the higher the prices are going to be, the more ready to use. In other words, the stuff that you just pull out, maybe stick in the microwave and eat, is going to be a higher price than something that you might use. Why is buying online activities? Conduct your research. I'll tell you something, folks. One of the things that I do is a lot of research before I buy anything. There's all kinds of user reviews that are out on the internet that can help you with that. Compare stores. Look, price shop. Look around. See where it is that you might be able to get the best deal. Make your purchase and then plan for some future purchases. Now, one of the things to think about is when you're buying something, what kind of warranty goes with it? So if you're buying a washing machine, for example, what kind of warranty is going to be coming with that? Make sure you're aware of how to, if something happens, how to make a complaint or go through getting the warranty fixed, getting it fixed through the warranty. Now, there's basically two types of warranties. You have express and implied. Express is written out. Okay, that's the paper that you get whenever you buy something that says, okay, here's the warranty that goes with it. You have implied warranty. In other words, warranty of title. In other words, and the merchantability. They do have title to it, and they can sell it to you, and you will have title to it. In other words, you will own it. Now, when you start talking about other types of warranties, a lot of times people will think about like getting things fixed. All right, so used car warranties have to be expressed on there, and it shows if you're going to go buy a used car from a dealer of some kind, they have to have that buyer's guide sticker on there that says, here is the warranty, or it is as is, something along those lines. With new cars, they will basically give you a warranty against any kind of defects, and in other words, it must be able to withstand the normal driving and everything for typically 3 years and a certain amount of mileage. One of the things that a lot of car places will do is try to sell you service contracts and extended warranties. In my opinion, a lot of those are ripoffs. I was buying a car a couple of years ago, and they said, okay, here's the warranty on this, and how about one of the things you probably want to do is get an extended warranty. I said, why? Are you saying that this isn't going to last that long? Well, no, it will last that long. All right, then, never mind, I don't need the warranty. That's basically pure profit for the dealership. When you start thinking about buying something, make sure you're doing your research. Okay, now one of the key things is problem identification. What is the problem you're trying to resolve? In other words, if you're going to buy a car, what's the key problem? Well, you need transportation. All right. And so that should really get you thinking about the direction you want to go as far as purchasing that car or purchasing that washing machine or whatever it is. Get your information, all right? Do your research. Evaluate the various alternatives. Folks, there's a lot of cars out there. If you're going to buy a car, there's a lot of them out there. And so really look around to see where it is that you might be able to get the best thing that meets your needs as far as cars are concerned. Then you select and purchase, and you get into the negotiation. All right, we'll talk about negotiation techniques here in a little bit. And then you have to think about what happens afterwards. In other words, what kind of maintenance is it going to take? If you do have a problem, how do you resolve it? And again, there in the text, it has the little chart that says, okay, here's the process: pre-shopping, evaluating, determining price, and then your post-purchase activities. So, your pre-shopping activities, figure out what it is that you really need, all right? Do you really need something that has 3,000 horsepower, or can you get by with something that's just a little four-banger as far as getting around and saves you some money as far as gas is concerned? Talk to folks. Who do you know that might be able to help with that, might have some ideas, who has some experience on some of those things? Get media information as much as you can as far as what is it that these various organizations are doing. Then you want to think about the various options that you might get. So in other words, do you really need the sunroof? Do you really need some of the other things that might be as far as some of the options that raise the price of some of the cars that we buy? Also, think about buying something that is used versus new. Yeah, it's really cool to get a new car, you know, and the new car smell and all that other stuff. The thing is, as soon as you drive it off the lot, it has depreciated quite a bit. You buy something that's 1 to 2 years old, you're letting somebody else take care of the initial depreciation. Shop around. Do an analysis as far as the various prices that are concerned out there. All right, price and quality are not always closely related. There are some cars, some items that do last longer than others. There are some that poop out sooner than others, and it might cost you the same amount as one of the others. Comparison shopping can really be beneficial, especially when you're buying expensive items. All right. And it's easy to do online as far as trying to find out what it is that's going on, who is it that might be able to offer some of the best deals. Think about your performance options. All right. In other words, how big an engine do you need? Do you need an automatic transmission, which most people will choose? What kind of convenience options? Do you really need the power seats? Probably do need the air conditioning. Most people will want something like that. And then some of the aesthetic features. One of the things to think about is, do you really need all the things that might be in the higher value or the higher cost items? So, some common sources of used cars. New car dealers. Now, you're going to pay more for a used car on a new car dealer lot. Now, they'll be in better shape. New car dealers tend to keep the cream of the crop as far as their cars are concerned. Now, used car dealers, one of the things you have to watch out for is what is it that they're actually selling there. You see some of these used car dealers that are kind of off the side, and they say everybody is approved as far as their credit is concerned and things like this. One of the things to think about is any of those lots they say, we will finance anyone. Those folks are not in the car dealing business. They're not in the car selling business. They're in the finance business, because a lot of those cars they will sell, and what happens is people don't pay for them, they repossess them, and then they'll sell them again. It's just really kind of interesting to see what goes on there. Something else to think about is used car superstores like CarMax. They have an interesting business model, and they are selling a heck of a lot of cars. You can get your best deals, as long as you know what you're looking for, through private sales. Certified pre-owned is basically saying, okay, it's used, but the thing is, the manufacturer has gone through and they have gone and verified that this sucker is really going to work well. I mean, in other words, they have said this is going to last you quite a while and it really looks good. What they do is they certify that it's and give it a warranty that goes along with it that says, okay, this is going to last for a while. Leasing has some advantages and disadvantages. If you're one of those who wants to trade cars every few years, leasing may be an advantage for you. All right, you have a lower cash outflow with leasing and lower monthly payments. The problem is you don't own it. And at the end of the lease, if you have gone over the mileage or you've had any kind of damage, you're going to have to fix that. And you have nothing in return. You don't have any equity as far as that vehicle is concerned. When you're checking out a used car, here's some of the things to think about, the exhibits in the text. All right, look for major dents, inspect the trunk and spare tire. What you're looking for when you're looking in the trunk is the paint color the same as the outside. Does it look as if it's been repaired? Because a lot of times they'll fix the outside, but they won't do much as far as some of the inside stuff. Does the spare have tread wear? Has it been on the ground? All right. Do all of the tires match? What you do is you get down and you sight down the side of the car. Do you see any wrinkles, or is it completely smooth? Get underneath and look for any kind of leaking oil or something like that. That's going to tell you something. When you get inside the car, look at the pedals. Do they look as if there's been even wear? Has there been a bunch of wear that shouldn't really be based on the mileage that's on there? Let's see. Do a road test. One of the things that I learned a long time ago is cars will talk to you. All you have to do is drive them. See how it feels. Does it steer correctly? Do the brakes work well? Things like this. Check all of these things out. And if you need help, get somebody who really does understand cars to help you look it over and see if that's the right thing for you. When you start thinking about the financing, you have to think about the capitalized cost. In other words, what's the total price that you're going to be paying? You will basically be paying more for a lease than you will if you purchase it yourself. Another thing to think about is the interest rate. What kind of interest rate are you paying? Your interest rate may be a little bit higher at a dealership than it would be at your bank. Okay, depending upon your credit rating and the relationship that you have with your bank. Another thing to think about is the residual value. In other words, let's say you get a car, you get a 5-year loan on the thing. How much is it going to be worth at the end of 5 years? When it comes to negotiation, folks, you have more power than most people realize. There is so much information out there as far as what cars cost, as far as the list price and then also the dealer price. There's a lot of information as far as how well they last, things like this. You have a heck of a lot of information that's out there in order to go out and buy a car. You'll see a sticker price that's suggested. Then you'll have the salesman sit there and say, okay, I know you don't want to pay full price for this, and they'll try to get you dealing on some of that. Make sure you're clear as far as what it is that you want to pay. You do your research, you find out what the typical cost is, you find out what their cost would be, things like that. When you are sitting down, do not mention any kind of trade-ins, because they'll ask you, hey, are you going to trade something in? That is a separate transaction. You want to say, okay, let's talk about this car right here, purchasing this car, that transaction there. Then you talk about any kind of trade-in, because what you're doing is you're selling your car to them. All right? Don't mention dealer financing or anything like that. One of the things they'll try to get you to do is sit there and say, okay, what is it that you're willing to pay? How much can you afford per month? All right? And one of the problems there is they may be there. You have to remember, they're in it to make a profit. All right? So what you do is you need to think about, okay, let's look at this transaction as far as buying the car, separately from any kind of trade-ins, separately from any kind of financing or anything like that. What is this going to be? And then you start working on some of the other things. Things to watch for, lowballing. In other words, okay, here's a price and they get you in, and then all of a sudden they start adding a bunch of stuff to it. All right? Highballing. In other words, you may hear ads where it says, we'll pay $3,000 for your used car no matter what condition, things like that. Well, if you have a car that's worth $200, they're actually going to be adding that $3,000 to the cost of the car. And so you're actually going to be upside down at that point in what it is that the value of the car and what it is that you owe. You're going to be owing a lot more than what the car is actually valued. Particularly if you're buying a new car, you put a bunch of dollars on there, you drive it off the lot, it has depreciated quite a bit right there. Financing sources, banks, credit unions, things like that. Again, my insurance company did the financing, got a heck of a deal. Look into that. The upside down equity, in other words, you owe more than what the car is actually worth. Oh, by the way, if you do default or sell the car, you have to pay off the difference. So in other words, let's say that the car is worth $10,000. All right, you still owe $12,000. You sell it for $10,000. You're going to owe the other $2,000 to the finance company. Some of the things to think about is the post-purchase activities. In other words, all right, so what kind of maintenance is going to be necessary on this? Does this sucker actually last? There are lemon laws where if you have something that is an absolute lemon, they can get it fixed for you. All right, you can work through that. Some of the costs to think about is depreciation, your interest, insurance, and then your licensing. One of the things we talked about, like with taxes, when you buy the car, you're going to pay sales tax on the thing. Each year, you're going to pay a personal property tax on that car. These are things to think about when you are thinking about the long-term cost of owning that car. Gas and oil, tires, you get something that has some huge tires on there, it's going to cost you a heck of a lot more than something that's much smaller and lighter and has smaller tires. When you think about your maintenance, make sure you're keeping track of all the maintenance and the expenses that you've had. All right, at least follow the maintenance schedule that they have in the manual. And you can have your car serviced at a lot of different places. Car dealers, new car dealers are the most expensive. Independent auto repair shops, one of the things you want to do is maybe get a relationship going, get to know somebody at one of those repair shops. They'll treat you right. What I do all my own maintenance. All right, so I'm the one I change the oil. I have done all kinds of work on cars and things like that. The thing is, I do know a couple of folks who have some repair shops. If there's something that I can't fix, I can take it to them. One of the things to think about is extending that vehicle life with the regular maintenance. In other words, change the oil, folks. Now, one of the things that they say is you need to change the oil every 3,000 miles or 3 months, whichever comes first. You can actually extend that a little bit, particularly if you're using some of the synthetic oils. All right, that'll take you 5,000 to 6,000 miles. Could save you a little bit of money. Make sure that you are inspecting hoses and belts, especially if you have belts that what's called a serpentine belt. In other words, one belt that drives everything. If that sucker breaks, you're going nowhere. Make sure that all your lights and things like that work, all right, and so that it can pass inspection and things like that. So always check your brakes, folks. Yeah, you can get it going, but if you can't stop it, you're going to have a problem. All right, so make sure that you're checking your brakes and you have good brakes out there. Be aware of some of the frauds. The book talks about some of the frauds that people have done in the past. Most places are very reputable. They want you to keep coming back. There are a few fraudulent folks out there. If you do have a complaint, what you do is you take it to the people who were originally working on the car or where it is that you bought the car, that sort of thing. Work with them first, then go to the overall company. When towards the end, last resort is legal action. In legal action, you're talking about small claims, or there may be class action suits. For example, there was a class action suit with some of the siding for our house. All right, we had new siding put on the house years ago because it was rotting, and then that started to rot, and there was basically a class action suit on that siding. We participated in that. Didn't get much from it. Didn't come nearly anywhere close to what we had paid, but we got something. Protect yourself. Do business only with reputable companies. All right. This is key. Avoid signing contracts that you don't understand. If you're being asked to sign a contract, sometimes you can pay a lawyer $50 to look it over for you and let you know what it is. That could save you thousands down the road. All right. And avoid impulse buying wherever possible. So, summary. Be thinking about your strategies as far as timing, you're doing the research. If you do have a problem, follow these steps as far as resolving it. There are legal alternatives that are available to you if you can't work it out with the folks. If you have questions, give me a shout.